Hi, hello, and welcome to Dr. Vinita's bio classes. Continuing with our post-fertilization structures and events. The third structure is the seed. Seed is the final product of sexual reproduction. So this is the final product of sexual reproduction. And we also know that seed is the fertilized ovule. Okay, the fertilized ovule, it develops into the seed. And this is the final product of sexual reproduction. And where are these seeds found? The seeds are formed within the fruit. Right? The seeds are formed within the fruit, and these seeds are the fertilized ovule, and this is the final product of sexual reproduction. So the seed has three main parts. They are the seed coat, the cotyledons, and embryo axis. Okay, so these three are the main parts of the seed. The seed coat, cotyledons, and embryo axis. We already saw that the cotyledons, they serve as the food reservoir. And because of this, the cotyledons are thick and swollen. The mature seeds can be of two types. It can be either albuminous or non-albuminous. This non-albuminous seeds, it can be also called as ex-albuminous seeds. In the albuminous seeds, they retain the endosperm. That is, it is not completely used by the embryo during its development, and it is reserved for the seed germination. So such seeds are known as albuminous seeds. And what about the non-albuminous or the ex-albuminous seeds? They won't have the endosperm. The endosperm will be completely consumed by the developing embryo. So these are the two types of seeds. We had discussed about this in our previous video. The only thing is that the term albuminous seeds and the non-albuminous or the ex-albuminous seeds is being introduced now. Okay, so the albuminous seeds will have the endosperm retained, and the ex-albuminous seeds or the non-albuminous seeds, they won't have the endosperm, and that's because the endosperm will be completely used up during the embryo development. And we had already seen the examples of the albuminous and the non-albuminous seeds. The albuminous seeds which retain the endosperm, the examples were castor and coconut, and that which does not retain the endosperm are groundnut, pea, beans, etc. And other than these two types of seeds, there is another type of seed which have the nucellus in it. Remember what is meant by nucellus? The structure of the ovule, we had seen about the nucellus which covers the ovule, right? Which was deployed in nature and which had the food reserves, which was destined to give nourishment to the ovule, right? So that nucellus, it will be retained. Some remnants of this nucellus will be retained in some seeds, and that is known as perisperm. Okay, so there will be seeds which have perisperms in it, and example of it is black pepper. Okay, these are the two main types of seeds, mature seeds. They can be either albuminous or non-albuminous. There is another type which has the remnants of the nucellus in it, and that is known as perisperm. And how are the seed cords formed? The seed cords are formed from the integuments. You remember the integuments? Integuments were the protective layer outside the nucellus and the ovule, right? Those integuments, they become hard and it forms the seed coat. Okay, so the integuments, they form the seed coat. integuments, they form the seed coat. And you might have seen a small pore-like thing on the seed, right? If you take a green gram or any gram, you will find a small pore-like thing on the seed, right? That part is actually the micropyle. The micropyle, which was the entry point of the gamete, the male gamete into the ovule, that part, it remains as a small pore on the seed coat. The seed coat itself, you can see that small pore kind of a structure, which is the micropyle. And this part is very important for the absorption of water as well as oxygen during the seed germination. So this micropyle region, which remains as a small pore on the seed coat, it facilitates the absorption of water as well as oxygen during seed germination. And as and when the seed matures, the water content in the seed will be reduced. And the metabolic activity also will be reduced. And the seed, it can either enter into a stage called as dormancy, where there will be no activity at all. That is a completely inactive form. So as the seed matures, it loses its water content and it reduces its metabolic activity, and it either goes into a state of dormancy, or if favorable conditions are available, then it will germinate. Okay, so either it can go into dormancy, that is complete inactivity, or if favorable conditions are present, then it germinates. The seed can either germinate or remain in a state of dormancy. The maturation of the ovule to the seed and the ovary to the fruit, it happens simultaneously. The wall of the ovary, it becomes the wall of the fruit as well, and that is known as pericarp. So pericarp is the wall of the fruit, which was initially the wall of the ovary. The fruit which is formed from the ovary, it can be of two types. It can be either fleshy. The fruit can be either fleshy or it can be dry. Okay, so the fruit can be either fleshy or it can be dry. The mango, guava, orange, all these are fleshy fruits, right? And what about dry fruits? Such as the groundnut, cashew nut, almonds, all these are the dry fruits, right? Mustard, all these are dry fruits. So the fruits can be either fleshy or dry. So now we've understood that the fruits are developed from the ovary. Okay, so the fruits which are developed from the ovary are known as true fruits. Okay, true fruits. True fruits are fruits which are developed from the ovary. So that means there is something called as false fruits, right? Because if there is something called as true fruit, then there should be some false fruit also. Yes, there is something called as false fruit. You remember the part called as the thalamus? In the very first class, we had studied that the stamens, they can be either attached to the petal or the thalamus. And we had said that the thalamus is the hardened structure above the stem onto which all the floral parts are attached to. So this thalamus, it contributes to the fruit formation in several fruits, such as the apple. The fleshy part of the apple is not actually the ovary, it is the thalamus. Some others are the strawberry, the cashew. All these are the thalamus which is developed into the fruit. It is not the ovary. So if it is the ovary which develops into the fruit, then it is known as true fruit. And if it is the thalamus which is developing into the fruit, then it is known as false fruit. Okay, so if it is the thalamus which is developing into the fruit, then it is known as a false fruit. And true fruit develops from the ovary. The examples of The false fruit is the apple, strawberry, cashew, etc. Okay, so that's about the true fruit and the false fruit. In some other species, the fruits are developed without fertilization. We have seen that the fruits are developed after fertilization till now, right? We saw that the fertilization happens, the male gamete and the female gamete fuses, it forms the embryo and the endosperm, and the fruit develops from the ovary. All these we saw. But now we are saying that there are few species wherein the fruits are developed without fertilization. Okay, the fruits are developed without fertilization, and such fruits are known as parthenocarpic fruits. Okay, parthenocarpic fruits. So parthenocarpic fruits, they are developed without fertilization, and the process is known as parthenocarpy, wherein fertilization is not a mandate for fruit formation. Okay, so an example of a parthenocarpic fruit is banana. So in banana, fruit is formed without fertilization. So parthenocarpy, it can be induced by certain growth hormones, and because the fertilization is not a mandate, the seed formation doesn't happen. So these are seedless. They won't form seeds, that is, the ovules are not converted into, or the ovules are not developed into the seeds. So they will be seedless. Seeds have several advantages, and angiosperms, we know that they produce seeds. So what are the advantages that the seeds offer? There are 5 main advantages. The first one is that the seed formation is highly dependable. So the first point is dependency. The seed formation is highly dependable, and the main reason for that is that the pollination as well as fertilization is not dependent upon the presence or absence of water. So, as these processes are independent of water, the formation of seed is more dependable. The second point is that the seeds have better adaptive strategies. The second is adaptive strategies. The seeds have better adaptive strategies, and because of this, the seeds can be dispersed to new habitats, and they can colonize there and flourish. And so, they have better adaptive strategies. The third advantage is that the seeds, they nourish the younger seedlings. So, the seeds can nourish the younger seedlings because they have the food reserves in them. And this nourishment is until they are capable of doing photosynthesis by themselves. So they provide nourishment to the younger seedlings. The fourth advantage is the presence of a hard seed coat. Because of this hard seed coat, the embryo within the seed is protected under all environmental conditions. The fifth advantage is the formation of new genetic combinations. Seeds being the product of sexual reproduction, they assure genetic variations, and so new genetic combinations will be formed which results in the variation. So genetic variation is another advantage of seed. Other than these, the seeds are the basis of agriculture. It is the seeds that we sow and reap the crop, right? So seeds are the basis of agriculture. We already saw that when the seeds become mature, they dehydrate, and at times go into an inactive state, which is known as dormancy. So both this dehydration and dormancy plays a very crucial role in agriculture, because this helps in the storage of the seeds for a longer time, which can be either used as food or can be sowed for crops in agricultural purposes. We very well know that agriculture is impossible without seeds. We have to sow seeds to reap the crops, right? So seeds are very much important and is the basis of agriculture. And the seed viability, it varies from species to species. To some species, it might be just few months, and for some other species, it can go to years. The oldest seed found till date is 10,000 years old, and it is of a plant called Lupinus articus. This Lupinus articus is nearly 10,000 years old, and it was excavated from the Arctic tundra. Another seed of date palm, which was about 2,000 years old, was excavated at the King Herod's palace near the Dead Sea. And this seed, which was 2,000 years old, was found to be viable. So that's all about the post-fertilization structures and events. We have discussed about the endosperm, the embryo, and the seeds. Now you can go through the whole of the chapter and try to recollect on few questions that are written in the textbook. Like, for example, how many eggs are present in the embryo sac? How many eggs are present? Only one egg, right? Only one egg is present in the embryo sac. How many embryo sacs are present in an ovule? How many embryo sacs are present? An ovule. In one ovule, there is only one embryo sac, right? Only one embryo sac will be present in an ovule. And next question is, how many ovules are present in an ovary? Don't wait for my answer. You try to answer it by yourselves, okay? So how many ovules are present in an ovary? The number varies, right? Some ovary may have only one ovule. Some others may have more than one ovule. So the number of ovules in an ovary varies from plant to plant, okay? So the next question is, how many ovaries are present in a flower? We have already studied that the basic reproductive structure is called the carpel, right? The number of carpels may vary in plants. Some have only one carpel, they are known as monocotyledon. Some are having more than one carpel. Some may have just two carpels, they will be called as bicarpellary. They will have more than two carpels, they will be called as multicarpellary. So each carpel will have only one ovary. The number of ovary depends upon the number of carpels. Okay. Next topic is apomixis and polyembryony. We already studied that the fruits which are produced without fertilization are known as parthenocarpic fruits, and the process is called as parthenocarpy. So in apomixis, it is the seeds that is produced without fertilization. Okay, so here the seeds are produced without fertilization, that is asexually. The seeds will be produced asexually. So both this apomixis as well as parthenocarpy, both of them are the modes of asexual reproduction. Parthenocarpy is the formation of fruits without fertilization, and apomixis is the formation of seeds without fertilization. Okay, so that is the difference between apomixis and parthenocarpy. So how does this apomixis happen? You have already studied that the female gametophyte, it undergoes meiosis in the embryo sac, right? And after meiosis, the ploidy of the cell will be haploid, right? But here, the megaspore mother cell, it does not undergo meiosis. It bypasses meiosis. So if meiosis doesn't happen, then the cell will be diploid. So this diploid megaspore mother cell, it undergoes mitosis. So with mitosis, the ploidy doesn't change. So it is diploid in nature. So the embryo sac itself is diploid in nature, and so fertilization doesn't happen and the seeds are formed mitotically, that is without fertilization. So this is how apomixis happen. And in many of the mango and citrus varieties, it has also been seen that the nucellar cells, remember the nucellar cells? The nucellus or the nucellar cells are the outer covering of the ovule, which gives nourishment to the ovule, right? So these nucellar cells, it divides mitotically. They also enter into the embryo sac and forms embryos. So in such varieties, the number of embryos will be more. So many embryos will be produced because the nucellar cells also enter into the embryo sac and so many embryos will be produced, and that too mitotically. And this condition of occurrence of more than one embryo in a seed is known as polyembryony. Okay, so polyembryony is a condition wherein the number of embryos will be more than one in a single seed. Okay, so that is known as polyembryony. There is a small portion on the cultivation of hybrid varieties also, wherein this polymixis plays a very important role. So what is the advantage of having hybrid varieties? The main advantage is that it increases the productivity, right? It increases the productivity. But there are several disadvantages to it. That is, the hybrid seeds have to be produced every year. The seeds collected from the hybrid varieties, it cannot be used over and over because there is a chance of segregation of the progeny. And because of this segregation, it is very difficult to maintain the characters of the hybrid. So if we use the seeds which are produced by the hybrid varieties itself, there is a high chance of not having the characters of the hybrid. So each year you have to produce these seeds, and the cost of production of hybrid seeds is very high. But here comes the importance of apomixis. So apomixis is a formation of seeds without fertilization, right? And in the apomixis seeds, there is very less chance of segregation, and so the character of the hybrids doesn't change. So the seeds which are collected from the apomixis hybrid, it can be sown and the characters of the hybrid can be retained, and this can be done over and over the years. So the apomixis has gained a lot of importance in agriculture and cultivation of hybrid varieties, and therefore apomixis plays an important role in hybrid seed industry. So hybrid seed industry makes use of this apomixis for production of hybrid seeds. So with this, we finish the first chapter, that is the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. There are a few questions given at the end of this chapter. So you can go through each and every question and write down the answers in a book. So all these questions have been answered in all these videos, and if you have any doubts regarding the chapter, you can write in the comments so that I can answer to you in the comment section itself. Thank you.